All right, welcome back to the Grigg and Rig show. This evening is going to be all about the beautiful game of football, specifically the Champions League round of 16 fixtures up to this point, and the Premier League title race and relegation battles. We are once again joined by our resident FIFA expert, Brandon, to help us break it all down.
Leave us
Brandon,
alone.
Big,
Tomorrow, lads.
Leave us alone, man. Stop coming on.
how was we'll start with Champions League. The game that just happened today was Liverpool and Real Madrid, and Napoli and Frankfurt. Obviously, the Liverpool game was the bigger game. Big, you caught not much of it, but Brandon, do you want to give us your takeaways, thoughts?
I mean, what an exciting start to the game, truly, as a Liverpool fan. I think that whenever we see Darwin Núñez score, that is like possibly one of the best feelings that we can have this season. Like one of the best takeaways that we can have. And me personally, I was running around my apartment screaming just over there. Yeah, I mean, let's say the first 20 minutes were just an extreme high as a Liverpool fan, and the goals that we conceded for them to equalize were, in a way, like they were unstoppable. Like, just a quick touch from Vinny and an absolute banger of a shot. I mean, the finish was sublime. I mean, there's no way Alisson's getting to that, and like I can't even fault Joe Gomez for not being able to keep Vinny in front of him because I mean he offered him the least amount of space, and Vinny just capitalized perfectly on that. So respect to Vinny, he's a great player. The fact that he got a brace in the first half. I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of his second goal, his equalizer, and like him celebrating off of that, especially after Salah scored a similar goal and was pretty respective of the fact that he knew he got a cheesy goal, but, still respect to Vinny. He's a great player. And overall, obviously, the second half was abysmal for us as Liverpool fans, and that's honestly all I really have to say about the second half.
Yeah, I turned it on, and I turned right when I turned it on. I saw Vinny's goal, which was just like you said, kind of a wonder goal, nothing you can do. But it felt like Liverpool was still creating quite a bit of chances. And it was very, very back and forth, very, very open game. But then, yeah, once that Alisson mistake happened, it just kind of like sucked all the air out of the stadium. And then, I honestly, I was still kind of backing Liverpool to come out in the second half and like maybe win 3-2, either that or like Real Madrid was going to run away with it. And it was definitely the latter of the two. I don't really even know like what went like super wrong in the second half. It just seemed like Real Madrid was like faster to like every single ball. They were just more crisp. I thought Valverde had a really, really good game, just like closing people down, ton of energy. But even like on that fifth goal, like when Modric is like, like sprinting through your guys' midfield at like 37, like, and he's looking like younger than like everyone else there. Yeah, it was a tough look. And I think like Real Madrid played super, super well, but it seems like a kind of a recurring theme of this season for Liverpool has just been like the absolute like frailty of the defense, and inability, especially against like top sides, to prevent them from scoring.
So for context, Brandon and I were both Liverpool fans, just for anyone who didn't know that. And I, for one, did not catch a glimpse of this game. I actually turned my phone off for the duration of the game while I was at work. Came back spoiler-free, turned on the highlights. Credit to Paramount Plus, they had a 17-minute highlight video for this game. That's like a sixth of the match, I guess. So I was able to catch spurts of what might have happened. I had no idea 7 goals were in the cards for this type of match, but I mean, I guess things just happen, And Brandon, I will push back a little bit on the Vinny first goal only because I saw some post-game remarks from Klopp, and he was saying that he couldn't believe that nobody like of our 6 defenders who were around Vinicius in that moment closed down enough on him. And I think when watching the replay a couple more times, I do think Gomez could have done a little more to step forward. I think maybe I don't know who one of the midfielders behind Vinny was when he was cutting in to take that shot. I do think usually Klopp is a guy who likes to come up with excuses for why things didn't go well. I very many times seen this. Oh, the pitch wasn't good. Oh, the ref wasn't giving us calls. Like for him to kind of admit that and like kind of come at his team and his boys for not putting forth quite the effort they could have on that particular play, I think for me thinks that screams to me that there was definitely something that we left out there where we weren't winning some of those balls, like Griff said. I guess Valverde, I mean, coming into this match, you figured he'd just be running all through our midfield. I think kind of more than anything, Griff, I feel like our midfield this season, if we were able to have a capable midfield, a balanced, dynamic midfield that could help support our aging defense, since we've had our defensive core locked in for the last 5 seasons, it's inevitable with the pressing style that Klopp has adopted throughout his career and on this team that's helped us reach our peaks lately. It makes sense that these same old guys are going to just eventually run out of gas. I think based on the little that I saw, I will say, the very little I saw, it seemed like in some of those end of first half, second half challenges, Madrid just had more legs than we did. Just didn't really have that intensity. I was reading about the match. Hendo just didn't really have the legs after like probably end the first half, maybe middle of the first half. Other guys just, I mean, poor Bajcetic. He's been so good for us this year. I probably butchered his pronunciation of his name, but he's been an incredible young player for us. And I kind of felt like he was just left out to dry by the rotting husks of Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, just these two old heads from an era that I think has passed us by. Definitely don't know what's in store for the future now with just us being in the Premier League, which we're going to get to obviously here in a bit. But yeah, man, I mean, I guess, Brandon, watching that Darwin Nunez goal, the elation I felt combined with just the clownery that I felt for Courtois, just wanting to just finally laugh at him for something instead of crying about something he did to us, like in the last year's Champions League final. I think it felt nice in that moment. And then 7 minutes later, in the span of a single half YouTube video, for that to just go all the way downhill was just sobering, to say the least. But hey, man, things happen. I mean, obviously Liverpool has not been that team this year. I figured based on our recent performances, we would have played a little better. But yeah, man, such is the Champions League, and Real Madrid, they've had our number for years now. Nothing has changed. So.
Do you guys? I'm a Tottenham fan, and honestly, I'm kind of a Liverpool hater. So it's always fun for me to see you guys get whooped. But I am kind of surprised by just like how quickly some of the midfielders have seemed like gone downhill. Like I feel like last year, it seems like you guys did everything right. I mean, Fabinho seemed like he was world class, and then even Van Dijk, and now it's like 1 year later, like it's just kind of amazing. Maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were, or like they've dropped off so like precipitously. It's just kind of mind-boggling. I don't really understand it.
Honestly, I mean, like, I think that we really got to give them the credit for how many seasons we were world class. I mean, our entire squad, really. And I think that there's like this expectation put on them after being that world class for so many years that they can just sustain that. And the problem is, like, if you don't change your system, like, it's not going to be sustainable. I know Viggy and I have had conversations about the fact that there's just other teams that have figured us out at this point. I mean, we play too monotone. Like, we kind of have a similar style of play that we take into every match, regardless of who the opponent is. And a lot of these opponents have figured that out, and they've been breaking it down, and other teams have been seeing other opponents break it down, and they've been mimicking him, and it's been working. And I think that has really hurt the confidence of a lot of the players. I mean, obviously Fabinho's downfall is something of itself that I don't think any of us can really explain. Because yeah, he was a world-class player at one point, and recently he doesn't even look like he should have a starting spot anymore, but we don't exactly have the best cohort to replace him at the moment. So fingers crossed that we sign a world-class midfielder over the summer. Whether we're able to get Jude Bellingham or not, hopefully we have somebody that can kind of fill that void and bring us back to where we were.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Casemiro's 30 years old. He's still playing pretty damn well, even on his new club, United. Fabinho's like a year or two younger than him. He already looks like he belongs in the MLS at this rate. Like, it's pretty disappointing to me. Like, I think I'm not just gonna pick on Fabinho here. It's not just him, trust me. But I think just it's the expectation that's placed on these guys in this particular system with all the running they've done, all the press. Like our team is built on the press, the counter press, and for just now our press just not being nearly as effective as it used to be. Like we're just so much less press resistant than we used to be. Our midfielders can like hold the ball as well. I mean, I think that's where we miss a guy like Wijnaldum, who was there. He was a trusted guy for so long, loyal servant. He was a guy who could just recycle possession, hold the ball up, pretty press resistant midfielder. Fabinho in his peak is that, but he's nowhere near that anymore. Henderson was never really the best at that. He's more of a guy who, in his best role, makes a lot of runs to help support the attack. I think him playing as a number 8 next to or on the side of Trent and Mo has always been a good combination for us over the last couple of years. And I'm seeing now in our Premier League performances lately that we're starting to unlock that dynamic with Hendo and those two again. So that's a plus in looking towards the bigger picture for this season. But in general, man, yeah, as Brandon said, just kind of sticking with the same status quo, if you will, for 5 years now. Adopting little tweaks here and there. Obviously, some roster turnover, but not nearly the amount of a team like Madrid, they have a new generation of stars now, and they're still winning trophies at similar to equal rates that they were when they had the Galacticos, when they had that midfield of Modric, who's still there, Kroos, who's still there, and yeah, Casemiro, just incredible, unstoppable force, especially in tournament football. Carlo has them humming on all cylinders, so it's tough to beat a team like that. I will give Madrid their credit. I mean, they outplayed us significantly today. But yeah, dude, I think the summer is going to be the big thing. I mean, we're going to talk about ownership for a different club soon here, but with Liverpool's ownership situation and what's going to happen with notoriously kind of just penny pinching owners we have currently with FSG and how they haven't really spent shit comparatively to other big clubs lately. I wonder if we'll make those splashes for a guy like a Jude or even another couple midfielders. I'm hearing rumors about Gavardio, the Croatian center back, him being linked to Liverpool. I don't know where we're going to muster up the funds to get all those guys in one transfer window, but shit, man, if it's something, I mean, we'll take it at this point. There's more roster turnover and whatnot, and seeing where we go from here with that. But yeah, man, enough said about today's game, though. I mean, we got our asses kicked. Sad to see after how it started, but move on, I guess. Now we can only focus on Premier League, what's in front of us. So.
Yeah, I guess this last thing on this game specifically, or maybe just Liverpool until we get to the Premier League. Do you guys think this is like the final nail in the coffin of the Jurgen Klopp era, or if they make top 4 again the Premier League or Champions League next year, do you think his job is safe? Like, what do you guys kind of think?
If I could offer my take on that quick, I think even if this season is a failure, I think it would be a mistake for us to get rid of Klopp. I mean, I understand that he needs to change his style of our play. I mean, specifically, it would be cool if we could see some different formations thrown in, or even just like trying certain players at positions that maybe they aren't exactly used to. Trent in midfield is kind of a personal hope of mine, but at the same time, I don't know if we'd be able to get that same dynamic passing from, the right side of the pitch if we did that. But I think like the success that Klopp has brought this club, it really can't be forgotten. I mean, I know Viggy and I can think back to like 2016, 2017 season. And I mean, we were struggling. It's kind of humbling for us to be back in this position now where we are, and to be happy about winning against teams like Newcastle and Everton in February. I think if at the beginning of the season, if we said that we would be as happy as we were about winning those games, that would be kind of shocking. But I think that's the essence of being a football fan, and I'm kind of embracing it to a degree at this point in the season, as far along as we are. But I think I've got to give the credit to Klopp for even bringing us to this degree of expectation that we have on ourselves. And I think it would be way too soon to call him out of the club if this season we didn't make Champions League even. That's just my personal take on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we extended Klopp till 2026 this past summer. Like, it was a very fresh extension. I don't think just after 9 months of relatively, just for our standards that we've set over the last 3 years, bad play can offset that kind of goodwill he's built up over the last 7-8 years of this club. If anything, I think Klopp would resign over us sacking him. I think that's how it would happen if it were to go that route. I also think that just with some of the tweaks that he can make, there definitely is room for that. I mean, he's experimented with a 4-2-4 in late game situations lately over the last year or so. That Everton game last year where we snatched 2 goals after like 70 minutes, like we switched to a 4-2-4 and it worked. I think I did read today after our famed halftime substitutions or second half subs, Harvey Elliott and James Milner came on. I think 37-year-old James Milner, I should add, he's a dinosaur. We played Harvey in a 4-2-4 instead of a 4-3-3, so Klopp was trying something different to an extent, but I don't get for the life of me. I don't know if Jota came in or not. I actually didn't pay attention to that, but would be why he didn't come on. But I think just the depth that he did come on. Okay,
Of course.
I think the depth that Klopp has been just dealt with, like kind of like dealt here. He doesn't have much to like work off of. I mean, Carvalho was hailed as one of our like kind of just impact signings this summer, and he's been benched since like October, November. He hasn't even gotten in the squad since then. He's also 19, 20 years old. He's a young guy. But I mean, I think the year where we should have struck in the transfer market was 2019, the summer after we won Champions League. All that money that just came in from that, we are like comfortably sitting on the perch of being one of the top 2 or 3 clubs in the world. And you only sign like 2 youth academy guys, not academy guys, I should say, but Harvey Elliott and I think Sepp Vandenberg. Those are the only 2 guys you sign in a window that you just won the Champions League off of. I think that just speaks to the broader incompetence and just frugality of FSG and my sports group, as to just maybe not giving Klopp the team that he deserves for the caliber of manager that he is. We're unquestionably one of the best managers in the world. So I think it's a tough card he's been dealt, and I don't think he should take the fall for that. He shouldn't be the scapegoat for this. So
I appreciate the take because, like, definitely on the post game show of that match, like, it was definitely
Jamie was
like,
going. Jamie was coping hard.
yeah, yeah. There's a
He was
lot
coping
of
hard.
there is a lot of anti-Klopp talk. So, and that's kind of like the general sense that you get on even like Twitter and stuff. So it's good to kind of see a level head. It kind of reminds me back when Pochettino was still at the Spurs, and they had kind of a similar situation, but I wonder if it's going to be similar in the sense that they started the next year with him, and they didn't start well. Then they kind of sacked him midway through the year, and I wonder if Liverpool. I don't think they'll fire Klopp over the summer, but yeah, if they start off poorly next season, I wonder if that'll be it for him. But yeah,
Yeah,
time
man.
will tell.
I mean, speaking of Spurs, I mean, I don't know if you watched the Champions League game last week. I don't think you did. Did you? Didn't have time. Something.
I didn't.
Something
I kind of just like knew we were gonna lose that game. Like Milan, like in Milan, it's a really tough match. They're doing pretty well this year in Serie A. I think they're 4th right now, but a couple
They're
points.
defending champions, so yeah, you gotta give them credit.
They're stacked. I actually I read some analysis on it, and I guess they actually played pretty well. Like I heard Skip had like a really good game. Like our midfield in general was pretty solid, but the thing with Spurs is that just bugs me is that I think they're just horrible to watch. They haven't figured out this like Conte's system yet. Just because like our wing back play is so poor. And we signed the Pedro Porro guy out of Sporting to hopefully alleviate that and get Emerson Royale like as far away from the club as possible.
The guy who stole Joao Felix's girl, man. They're gonna be playing. They're gonna be playing Chelsea at the end of February, dude. Yeah, you guys didn't see anything about that?
No, bro, dude. Maybe
Joao Felix's girlfriend cheated on him with Pedro Porro, dude.
Oh, with Porro. I thought it was with Emerson Royale. Okay.
No.
Well, that would have been funnier actually, because he's trash. I mean, maybe Chelsea will score a goal this month if that happens. I mean, Chelsea have scored like 3 goals in the last 2 months. I mean, maybe that'll spur him into action. Get it?
It's kind of been a hyped. It's kind of been a hyped match just for that reason. Literally just for that reason. So, yeah.
Let's go, dude. That's great. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm seeing what they had lined up in that match. I mean, I guess Longley's kind of. I don't know if he starts all the time for y'all, but Romero obviously. Dyer's kind of a fixture in the team.
The third center back slot is kind of it's Romero and Dyer, then like either Davies, Longley or whoever. So
Yeah. I
But
mean,
no,
dude, what do you think about Conte's future on the club? You think he's gonna stay much longer?
I have no
Bigger
idea.
picture
He's
wise?
just so damn temperamental. I mean, he's not as bad as Mourinho, but he's like a slightly upgraded Mourinho. Where like he's just like so dogmatic with his tactics. He's like such a big personality. I think he's had a lot more like recent success. I think he's like a better manager, but it's a lot of the same kind of drama that I'm just kind of sick of. And yeah, so I don't know. With Conte, it always seems comes down to like how much financial backing he gets, and like can we spend like 100 more million pounds on new players?
As just did.
I know. So I kind of doubt it. I would think he'd probably leave, especially if we don't make top four, which I don't think we probably will. I would think Newcastle makes it over us, or even like Liverpool coming back. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Kane is kind of up in the air right now, trying to lock him down. But I don't know. Right now, Spurs just seem like at best like a top 8 team in Europe, like at absolute best. And like the fourth or fifth best team in the Premier League. But there's not a lot of like young players who we can really like point to and say, okay, I think like the future looks really bright. And they haven't really done like a great job of developing a lot of youth players recently too.
Yeah,
So
it's true. Kulusevski's
How does
still young. I don't know how long he'll stay for.
yeah, and like I
how,
think Skip was academy guy, but
how does it feel to see Arsenal at the top?
Let's get into
it's not
title
good,
race,
man.
baby.
It's not. It's not good.
So you personally would rather Manchester City win, of
Oh,
course.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Literally anybody else except Arsenal. It's so weird
fair.
because, like, I mean, I always said if Arsenal was like the last like 2 or 3 years, they're like slightly like worse than we were. And I'd never been a big Spurs believer, and I'm like Arsenal's just kind of like not hopeless, but they were just always kind of like in the squalor
I'd
and
agree
like
with that.
fighting, and like Arteta was like always like big name, but like up to this point, or up to like last year, like really hadn't really done a lot, hadn't really proven a lot. But this year, like everything has just clicked for them. Like all, and they've done a good job like developing all their young players, between like soccer.
Very young.
Yeah, very young. So they're really like a fun and exciting team. Like if I didn't hate Arsenal already, I'd probably like just really like them. But no, it's not easy to see. Not at all. I mean, I'm sure it's like if Man U's top of the table for you guys.
That's a nightmare for sure that I don't think any of us really kind of saw coming until recently. I mean, if Manchester United somehow pulled it out, I think that would be a huge slip up, of course, by Arsenal and Man City. But yeah, that would definitely be the worst sight to see Man United win another league.
Oh yeah, I'd much rather have City win the league than them. I don't think it's close. No one acknowledges a City title. Like everyone's just like whatever. Like do it
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Yeah,
No like charm. There's no like actual like level of significance to it with them anymore. So
exactly.
Um,
Although
Yeah.
Manchester City winning the Champions League would be abhorrent.
That
I would die before I want to see that.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great. I know white whale. Haven't been able to do that yet. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
man.
see.
They're cursed.
Yeah. Before we kind of dive fully into Premier League, you guys want to touch on any of the other Champions League matches? Chelsea Dortmund maybe, or the Bayern PSG game? We're kind of the
Shout out to Karim Adeyemi for destroying that £1 billion team. That was an incredible goal. An incredible goal. Obviously we can all laugh about how terrible Chelsea have been and how just incapable they are of clicking. But honestly, I will give them a slight bit of grace, even though they've spent so much money through Todd Bowley. I mean, you can't just spend a ton of money and expect your team to just click the next day. I mean, they need time to really mesh. So, I don't know. I think that next season will be the real judgment time, but I'm not going to fully judge Todd Bowley or Chelsea or their manager yet.
I think I will. I think I'll judge on Todd Bowley.
Most people will.
Coming from the guy. This is coming from this team is owned by a guy who, until like a couple weeks ago, didn't realize that teams like Chelsea didn't automatically gain entry into the top 4. They just assumed they just get in automatically. He genuinely thought that even though Chelsea are 10th right now, no matter what the current standings are, that they would just get automatic entry into top 4/Champions League every year. Like, this guy thought he was in like 2030 and that the Super League already existed, man. This guy is incompetent. He's worse than FSG by far. Not worse than FSG, but he's just dumber than FSG, I think. In the sense of he has no idea what's even going on in that regard. And he's just dropping off like fucking developing nation GDP level amounts of money on transfer windows. Like, this guy is, I don't even know, man. $350 million in January alone. I think we could just get our Chelsea just bashing out of the way right now because that club is hilarious. Losing to 20th place Southampton at home. I've scored 0 goals. I've 1 goal this month. I went back and looked at this. They have scored, I think, either 6 or 8 goals in the last 4 months combined, all competitions. That's it. That's an average of 2 goals in an entire month. They're not good. I'm loving this downfall because they're also kind of taking some of the heat off of Liverpool for how shit we've been this year. I do appreciate that, Chelsea. Thank you very much. But yeah, man, I mean, I think Dortmund could easily go ahead at Stamford Bridge and win that second leg in a few weeks here. Adeyemi's a monster. I love that guy. I mean, he dusted Enzo Fernandez on that goal. That was really cool to see. Funny to see, too, the most expensive signing getting just dusted like that. Yeah, dude, I mean, the Prem is not looking great right now. I mean, Spurs, us, Chelsea. Hopefully Leipzig can get the job done tomorrow against City. That would be spectacular. But yeah, man, I mean, not much
Isn't
else to say.
Kunku going to be in the lineup? Does anybody know?
I can look it up real quick. I don't know for sure.
Is he
I
still
thought
on
I had heard
Leipzig?
something about. Yeah, I thought I had heard something about how he was injured. But I think he would be instrumental to their offense's success against City for sure.
He scored a hat trick last year against them in group stage. He's done it
Oh,
before.
I do not remember that. That's incredible.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah,
I'd assume that PSG had already bought him, but probably be next year.
I thought Chelsea were gonna buy him. He was on their radar too. But speaking of PSG, I mean that game was interesting too. Probably the game of the round of 16, like tie, Bayern PSG. Yeah, man. What do you guys think about that game?
I mean, Mbappe as a sub to be able to come on and he scored the brace, right? He scored a brace. Did he score a brace? Or did he just score the equalizer? It was 1-1, wasn't it?
No,
Was it 1-1?
No, bro.
They lost 1-0.
I'm tripping, man.
He scored a goal that was ruled offside. He did score a goal that was ruled offsides.
Gotcha.
Okay. That was after it was 1-0.
Oh, yes,
scored,
yeah.
right?
Just the Kingsley Coman goal, yeah.
Coleman scored, yeah, dude. Coleman's just the PSG killer.
He
Did it
is,
in the
dude.
final like 2 years ago.
Wasn't he a PSG product too?
Yes.
Yep,
I don't
he's
know how
out of
they
Paris, yeah.
Delicious.
Respect to him for still not celebrating against them after all this time. That's I think he deserves to celebrate at this point.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think Bayern are one of the favorites in this tournament, even though they're not that great domestically right now. I just don't know about PSG if they make it through. Maybe. I don't think they have much of a good. They don't have really a strong midfield. I don't think their defense is okay. I mean, they got some old guys. Ramos probably starting back there. Marquinhos is getting up there in age. Nuno Mendes is sick though, and Hakimi, of course. Their fullbacks are fine, but I think from a defensive standpoint, I don't know if they'll get through this tie. But definitely a noteworthy one that was worth talking about for a bit. Yeah, man. I mean, what were the other ties that happened? There was Benfica and Club Bruges, Griff.
Yeah.
What was the score of that? I think Benfica won that.
No, sorry. Benfica won 2-0. I think in Belgium, so that one's probably done.
Yeah, and then today Napoli won. Napoli beat Frankfurt today.
I do want to talk about Napoli. They've been, I think, probably the best team in Europe this year.
They're going to be serious contenders, I think, for this trophy.
I mean,
I definitely think you guys.
I think they've lost like 2 games in all competitions or something, or maybe 3 because they got knocked out of the cup, the Italian like domestic cup. But
yeah, Liverpool beat them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Liverpool got one on them. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
They got some guys though, Griff. I mean, they got Osimhen. He's going to be due for a big money move soon. Obviously, Kvaradona. Kvaratskhelia. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. The Georgian wonder kid. He's awesome. Yeah. Awesome to watch. So fun to watch.
Is so good, man. That's what's empowering it. Like Anguissa, Lobotka. they've been super
Zielinski.
good, super
Yeah,
good.
Zielinski's been really good.
Zielinski's
Di
like coming
Lorenzo's
off
been
the bench for them. That's the crazy thing.
yeah.
Um,
We got a squad.
Lozano, yeah, they've been and they've probably been the most fun squad to watch in Europe. They just score so many goals.
Yeah.
Really fluid football. There's actually this
Kim
real
Min Jae. Yeah.
this the Real Madrid
Mention
game
him.
versus Liverpool reminded me of the Naples game when they
Oh,
played
the first match.
the
Oh,
Liverpool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. This
I
them.
mean, they were similar. I mean, I can't speak on this because I didn't watch the whole game. Brandon, you could maybe speak more on this. But I mean, based on like how those games transpired, I think Joe Gomez being a primary culprit as to why we sucked ass in defense is to be something that's worth noting. I mean, Gomez was like around all of the goals today. He had a couple of major fuck ups I remember in that first Napoli game in group stage. So I mean, definitely I could see that being an issue. I mean, just a dominant midfield, as you said, Griff. Napoli have a really good midfield. Our midfield is weak as shit. If a great midfield like that just overruns us, there's nothing we can really do about it, especially with the dynamic attacking forces that Napoli have. And we saw that in full force in September. So, yeah, man. I do you guys think Napoli are gonna probably win Serie A? I think they're got to be the
Oh,
favorites. I mean, they're up.
yeah, they're
How
like
many points are they up on?
18 or something. They're way up. Yeah, they'll probably win.
18 points. Oh my
They're
They're
god,
gonna
yeah,
win in March,
they're
man.
they've yeah they haven't dropped any
they're
points.
that high up.
I think they're
Oh
like
yeah, they're
17
solid.
2-2 or something crazy. Like
They're 22-1 in the league. 20 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss.
Wow.
They're golden. They're golden. Yeah. Wow. Never mind. Never mind.
yeah,
Yeah, man. They're gonna be fun to watch. I think they'll probably make the next round.
they're probably I don't know if they're a favorite, but they're definitely like a top 4, top 3.
I've definitely heard them as favorites from some certain analysts. For are we talking about for Champions League?
Yeah,
Right?
Champions League.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard them.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to see kind of a similar club would do it, but I don't know. I have my doubts. But we'll see. They're a really fun story. Okay. Anything else? I think so. Porto is playing Inter, and then Leipzig's playing Man City. Those games haven't happened yet. But we can talk about Champions League maybe at a later date. You guys want to jump into Premier League?
Do it, man. Do it. I think just for a little bit of admin before we begin, we're probably going to start with talking about the title race a little bit.
Mhm.
We just talked about it a little bit with City, Arsenal, and now United. Then we can talk about top 4 race. I mean, there's a bunch of teams kind of mixed into that from like 4 down to about 8 or 9, honestly. And then I think we can mention kind of some of the parity of the Premier League this year, some of these up and coming teams that have just sprung from just places we didn't think they'd get this high up in the table, and they're doing really well. And then the relegation battle is always fun when we're talking about the Premier League. It means so much financially, just in general, making it's like remaining in the league, and I think it'd be doing us a disservice if we didn't talk about that a bit.
Man City.
Yeah, man, relegate them. Let's go. I like that. That's not so great. Yeah, man. And then we can make some picks maybe. Who we think we're gonna make the top 4. Our biases might show out here. We'll see.
Yep.
See if we can put fan allegiances aside for that segment. But yeah, man, let's get into it.
Okay, so I think the biggest probably thing at the top is just the title race itself. So Man City recently beat Arsenal at the Emirates 3-1. That was a really fun game. Arsenal looked like they outplayed City in the first half, and then they just seemed like they got kind of like scared, or they're a little bit timid. It was kind of like oh, like we've gotten to this point, like I don't even know like what to do now. Like they were kind of like scared to like put their front foot forward again. And City were just super clinical. But it wasn't a case where I think that Arsenal looked like they didn't belong on the pitch with them. It just looked like City was kind of like the big brother, kind of like
Way to put it.
yeah. So that got them that got them tied, right? And Arsenal had a game in hand, and now Arsenal won and Man City drew, so they're Arsenal's back up by 2 points.
Yep, 2 points with the game in hand. 2 points to the game in hand.
Yep.
Our City with the goal differential. They have the goal differential still, but Arsenal they're in a good spot still. Decent spot.
I think it's worth noting that I think Arsenal were kind of snubbed on the Brentford game. I mean, I think Brentford's goal was considered to be offsides afterwards, and that was something that was overlooked during the VAR call. So even when Man City won, I don't think that they should have gone up into first. I mean, that was just awful luck for Arsenal.
Who do you guys like to pull this out? I think the betting favorite's probably still Man City. Because there's so many games left to go, but um, yeah, and I mean the Arsenal's whole kind of title challenge has kind of been a Cinderella story. I mean, I don't think anyone had them pegged as a title contender at all. I mean, top four was
Yeah,
kind of like where they thought would be peaking at.
absolutely. That top four was very reasonable. I mean, title race this early. I mean, only losing one match in like 6 months, really impressive. Then Everton happened, Sean Dyche happened, and now Man City, and now they have 2 more losses in the span of a month. So, I mean, they're a young team, man. We were just talking about them a little bit. They've got a lot of young players: Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard. Those three, that triumvirate's been insane this year. And Ketia, we can't say enough about him stepping in for Gabriel Jesus. I mean, picture this team with Jesus in there. They could definitely have like another level they could go to with him back in the fold. Um, yeah, I mean, they got some good defenders. Saliba's been really good. More so in the first half of the year. I've heard he's fallen off quite a bit lately. Gabriel's been a decent center back. We got some young guys all around, man. I mean, getting some title-winning pedigree. I think we can't understate this to a degree with Zinchenko. I mean, I don't think he's like an important player by any means, but he's definitely a guy who knows the system. Considering Arteta used to be Pep's assistant manager, he has loads of experience winning titles. Same with Jesus. Both of those guys have experience with that. And I think he just kind of carries out Arteta's vision pretty well as a left back to the point where now I don't know how often Tierney even plays. And we were thinking Tierney was one of the best young left backs in the world not too long ago. So, yeah, Arsenal have a squad. I do think, though, I agree with you, Griff. City, I think just they've been here too many times. Us Liverpool fans can attest to that, unfortunately. Arsenal with their youth and their inexperience, I do worry if come April and like beginning of May, if that pressure will start to wear on them a little bit. We're really going to see what they're made of in those last 2 months of the season. It's all fun and games until you hit March, April, May. It's like you're really getting down to it now. So you got to see what they have in store. And yeah,
They choked last year versus in regards of top four because they had it
yep,
against us
yep.
and Spurs like sneaked in there.
Rob holding red, man, that was
Oh
beautiful.
man,
Just
Rob holding red.
very briefly, I think the Zinchenko and Jesus points are really good. Yeah, it's a really good point to make because I don't think it's a coincidence that you bring in not only two guys that have played in your system before, but two guys who have like been there and done it, bring that experience in, and this is the year that they kind of make that jump. On so many young teams, like you can have a bunch of talent, but you do need like those like vets who've been there. Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence. So yeah, really good transfer policy. They definitely exceeded, which has really been shitty to watch the Tottenham fan, but yeah, they're really. I mean, they're a very like likable team. You know, they got a exciting young manager, exciting young players. Yeah.
I mean, besides Rashford in the last 3-4 months, you could argue Saka's been the best player in the league. I mean, he's been insane this year. Holland has the goals, but Saka just what he means to that team as a creation and just the presence he has out there on the flank. I mean, hard to replicate. And yeah, I mean, speaking of United, we unfortunately can't forget about them in this title race now. They've played themselves into it. I don't know if there's a player in form right now in the whole world who's better than Marcus Rashford. The way he's been producing since the World Cup, it's insane at this point. Like he has scored, I think, is it 8 straight games he's scored in something of that sort. It's nuts. It's genuinely nuts how prolific he's been lately. It's not just him, of course, that's helped out. I mean, Luke Shaw's been incredible this year. Diogo Dalot as a right back, he's been making a lot more appearances, just offering up a good offensive threat from that right wing position. Something that they didn't have for several years with Wan-Bissaka as their right back. I can't play offense to save his life. Casemiro, another experienced signing, a guy who's really steadied the ship in the midfield. Eriksen's actually had an impact this year to a degree, which I didn't. I mean, great for him. Really happy to see him get back into big football. What happened in Euros? Yeah, dude, they just got a lot going for them right now. A lot of juice. I mean, getting Ronaldo off their team was probably like getting just a leech off your back. Ten Hag, new manager. That's obviously a thing we got to talk about. One of the best manager performances in I think European football this season. What he's done with that team. So I'll give him credit, man. Sucks, but I give him credit.
Do you guys think they're like a legitimate challenger?
absolutely. I think it would be
so.
foolish to say not. I mean, I could even see them finishing second over either. I mean, probably Arsenal, but Potentially Man City. We don't know. I mean, Man City could fold. You know what I mean? And I think Manchester United they've been quality. And to Vig's point about Marcus Rashford, I mean, yeah, he's world class, and I've always personally believed that Marcus Rashford has been world class. As a Liverpool fan, it pains me to say it, but I've kind of been a Marcus Rashford simp since he's come into the league, and I've always rated him. I mean, honestly, even in his years that he was bad, I would talk to Manchester United fans and I would say Marcus Rashford is your guy, and it's just cool that that has kind of come to fruition this season, and I'm happy to see him doing well. Even as a Liverpool fan, I'm happy to see Marcus Rashford doing well.
He's a likable guy, man. Yeah, can't really hate on him.
Wholesome.
Good to see him back, I guess.
Very wholesome. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, dude.
What do you guys? I mean, so you kind of touched on this already, but there does seem to be a greater level of parity throughout the league. But I think one of the bigger things is I think everyone thought that with City getting Haaland, they kind of take it to the next level, kind of be this unstoppable juggernaut, and it hasn't really been the case. They've dropped a lot of games that they probably shouldn't have. So I think they are the most talented team in the league, like by a decent margin this year. It seems like. So I guess what has kind of gone not wrong, but like why aren't they kind of reaching their full potential?
I definitely think it has to do somewhat with getting a guy of Haaland's caliber, where you have he's just the focal point of your offense. It's not like what City have done in the past, where they have just intricate passing like abilities, just generating attacks, just feeding guys like Sterling, Mahrez, Sane, back when he was on the team, guys of that ilk down the flank, setting up just kind of like, I don't know what the word is, like kind of just crosses kind of into the box, like ground passes, like just the kind of City goal. Like I can't describe it, like the archetypal City goal was like very just tiki-taka heavy, like passing based. And now with a guy like a target man like Haaland, where a lot of City's offense, obviously this year, he has 26 goals, leading the Prem by 9 over the next guy in goals scored this year. Like, so much of their offense is tied to him. And as a result of not having a guy like this before, a true number 9, even through all these years of success, I mean, Aguero was a 9, but he was a different style of player than Haaland is. It's definitely just probably been a bit of a culture shock to them, I would assume. And having some guys, I mean, I don't think a bunch of their guys have specifically fallen off. I mean, Ruben Diaz is having a really good year again. Ake has been playing a lot for them. They switched to a interesting formation. I think it's like a 3-1-4-2 or something of that sort. They got Bernardo Silva playing like left back pretty much. Like they've done a lot of experimenting in the last few weeks that I mean, beating Arsenal in the Emirates, that's no small feat. I mean, starting to tinker a little bit more. I think as we're seeing with Liverpool and some of the changes they made up front this year, it takes a while to build chemistry, you know? Tie that into cross-sport comparisons. We're seeing that with the Timberwolves with the moves they made. I mean, I'm not saying Gobert and Haaland are same level of talent, but it's a guy of that, like, just uniqueness who's bringing in a new style of play to your team, and it takes time to adjust around that. And City are still doing pretty damn good. I mean, going to Forest, though, I mean, I'm going to shout that result out. That was a great result for Forest. I didn't watch the game, so I can't speak on how it went, but City are definitely not indomitable like they've been in recent years. But at the same time, we've seen it, these Pep-led squads over the years. This time of year, they can go on a run, win 9, 10, 11 games in a row, just kind of either get themselves back into the chase of the conversation or just run away with it. So I'm never going to count them out by any means. And yeah, I agree, Griff. They've had a rougher go of things this year, and they already have 4 losses, 4 draws as well. But, I mean, still right there. Arsenal could maybe run away from them a month or two ago, but that is surely not the case anymore. So.
Yeah, no, I also just think that they're trying too hard to play through Haaland, and I think that that's going to hurt them. I think that they personally, as a club, are probably a little bit more excited. I mean, every season they have to be more excited about Champions League than they are about the league, and I think that their success in Champions League could really potentially impact how well they do in the Premier League, whether that's if they fall out of Champions League and that hurts their confidence, or if they're in Champions League and they're just more focused on that and that hurts them on some random Saturday against, I don't know, Everton. You know what I mean? Like they're very capable of losing against those teams, as we saw with Forest. yeah, I think that just they kind of have a monotone style of play, and it's going to take time for them to adapt because Holland's not he's not used to their system, and he doesn't really understand the players yet. So it's not like he's changing his style of play to adapt to a ball from Bernardo Silva or a ball from KDB. He's always going to be the same Erling Haaland, and for some reason, it just feels like they're thrusting him into a position to win them trophies, which is foolish of them because they have one of the best squads in the world. So I think that if they just start to think a little bit less about this big new signing, Erling Haaland, and they just remember who they are, then chances are they'll walk away with the league.
Do you think Holland will help them in the Champions League? Like, is there something to be said? Because that was kind of like they had always done well domestically, but I think the argument was they need this like big number 9 when you have these super tight matches, knockout round. You need like this striker who can produce a goal out of nothing, someone you can lob the ball into. Like, do you think it could be the case for maybe maybe they finish third or second in the league, but Holland kind of brings them over the top in Champions League?
I'd take that. I would take that for sure. I think I agree with that. I agree with you, Griff. I think it's more of a Champions League thing. They've won the league 6 times in the last 10 years, if not more. I might be forgetting one out of all of these. I mean, they're prolific at that, and now they just have one final hump to cross in terms of establishing themselves as just a superpower as a club, and it's winning Champions League. And Holland is the type of guy, as you said, in those situations, Griff, those knockout football matches where things get really tight, really cagey. You need a guy who can produce a goal out of nowhere. There's very few strikers in the world, let alone young strikers in the world, who can produce the just amount of individual brilliance that Erling Haaland can bring to the table. So definitely think it's a forward-thinking move. And the same thing about Darwin Nunez for Liverpool. I think give him a year, or even 2 years, he's going to be really good. I think in the league and just in general. And I think Haaland, he's already really fucking good. He has 26 goals already. He's going to break the record. And we're talking about how City are struggling with a guy like this who's going to break the record. Imagine what he'll be in a year or two when he's more integrated with the team, the Pep structure, and it's still bagging goals like it's nothing. So I think these guys are both going to thrive. I mean, talking about City specifically, I think he's more of a win now move immediately. So
I mean, I think Nunez is a little bit of a cope. I don't know if I'd put him in the same conversation quite yet.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in terms of young, talented strikers who are having a lot of like pressure placed on them.
Yeah, that's fair.
He could be a guy who scores 15 and 20 next year. I wouldn't be totally shocked by that at all.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I think like Holland is like already like probably a top 2
Definitely
striker.
I'm not gonna make the mistake of comparing those two to each other. Yep, no, true.
Yeah,
man. Do you want to talk about top 4 a little bit? See if it's because we got 3 teams we mentioned fighting for that title race, but there's only one more spot left for Champions League. That's the 4th place spot. Right now, Spurs are sitting in that spot. They got 42 points. They got an extra game played over Newcastle, who are right behind them with 41. And then we got 2, actually, I'd say 3 interesting teams that are also in the mix. Liverpool are in the mix too. They're at 35 points with 2 games in hand over Spurs. But we got Brighton, Fulham, and Brentford. Those are 3 teams that if you talked to me beginning of this season, I would have never pictured them and anywhere near the top 4 conversation, let alone Europa League, European conversations. So what are your guys' thoughts on those 3 teams to start with?
Impressive. Absolutely. I mean, Fulham it's very deserving. They came out very strong from the beginning of the season, as Viggy and I know. I mean, I remember watching our opening fixture against Fulham thinking, I mean, we're a championship team. Like, we are capable of winning this league. We're just playing a team that just came up to the league. So drawing to them in the opening fixture was, I think that was just, it was foreshadowing of how they've done the rest of the season. I mean, incredible team for sure.
Yeah, Mitrovic has been a revelation this year.
Yeah, he's finally delivered in the Premier League. Kind of got the monkey off his back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think Brentford and Fulham have definitely been big surprises. But I feel like Brighton have been like consistently kind of on the rise the last few years, especially under like before Potter went to Chelsea, which hasn't been a great move for him so far. But Yeah, I mean they've kind of had a track record of like turning out like really good guys, and I think what's really amazing is that they've sold a bunch of these guys. You know, like Ben White, Spurs got Basuma, Trossard got sold, and that was this year. But Mape, I think, didn't Everton get him?
Mape's gone. Then they're
Yeah,
gonna sell Caicedo soon. They sold Trossard already to Arsenal.
yep. So yeah, I mean, like
Palace.
they've just done an amazing job of like recruitment, and then like sticking them into that system and like, I mean, getting results. And yeah, I mean they finished, I want to say 10th ish last year. After they kind of flirted with relegation the year before that. But I think under Potter they were always kind of a team on the rise, and they just kind of sustained it at least so far. Um, with the Shakhtar boss, I forget his name, it's with the Z or something, right?
Who? Deserbi?
Yeah. Zerbe.
Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah. So I think they've been really impressive, and I think like again like one of the more fun teams to watch as well. They play pretty fluid brand of football. Um,
Dude, I'm looking through some of these statistics right now. Like Solly March is listed as like statistically the best left midfielder in the Premier League. He's had a crazy year. Pascal Gross, one of the best defensive midfielders in the league this year. They got Adam Lallana, Liverpool legend, starting games for them, so I gotta respect them a little bit for that. Toma's been a revelation, man. He's been awesome for them. I mean, that goal he scored against Liverpool, and I think it was FA Cup. That was insane. Just
Never
absolutely
seen
done.
anything like it. Yeah.
Really?
Those are really cool.
I mean, what a finish! What control and what finish! I mean, I've never seen. I honestly, I've never seen a goal scored like that.
Like
It looked like he was doing a kickabout. I mean, and we're talking about in stoppage time. Like,
yeah, man, they got some dynamic young guys. I mean, McAllister, World Cup hero. He played big minutes for Argentina. One of the best players in the World Cup final. He's on fucking Brighton. I think that speaks to an extent like where we are with the Premier League, where some of these like mid-table clubs they have really good rosters. I mean, even Nottingham Forest, they were a team that was in the dregs of the league for several months to begin the year, and now they've kind of worked their way back up. They're 13th now. They spent so much money. They bought like 15 guys upon getting up to the league. I mean, Hernan Lodi, he's a left back for Atletico Madrid. He was starting Champions League matches like 2 years ago for them. Now he's playing left back for Nottingham Forest. You got other guys too that I could mention, but I mean, it speaks to just the money that the financial windfall that the Premier League has kind of earned over the last few years with these media deals, just how much revenue they've generated. I think they've kind of taken that place atop the European footballing hierarchy in general now. I mean, Spain for so long, but now you got to say it's England with some of the depth of these teams. I mean, with just how even top to bottom the league is. I don't think it's been this even in a long time. So, and Brighton are just one example of that. Obviously, Brentford with the job that Thomas Frank has done with that squad.
Tony.
And Tony, I don't know what's going on with his gambling shit. I don't know what the actual like punishment was for that for him, but I think it's still under investigation as far as I know. But credit to him, man. He's been a beast for them this year. And then yeah, sorry about Brentford. Fulham has some good guys. Mitrovic. Kenny Tete has been a really good right back for them. I'm seeing actually, he's got really good statistics from what I'm seeing at least. And yeah, man, they had a good team. Willian, I didn't even know Willian played for them until like 2 months ago. Remember Chelsea Willian, the guy with the afro?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's been good.
Iconic.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just fun to see teams like Fulham, like who just got, as Brandon said, recently promoted this season, fighting for Europe spots this late in the year. It's insane, and it's kind of cool to see as a football fan.
For sure. I mean, that's probably the biggest complaint about European soccer in general is the lack of parity. So the more more you see that, I think it's just good for the sport, good for the league. But you're right. I mean, like this, the financial like might of the Premier League is pretty staggering. I mean, even like Chelsea alone. I think Chelsea alone like sent more money than almost like entire like leagues this winter.
Serie A's broke. La Liga's been broke for a little bit since COVID.
Yep.
Germany isn't doing so hot. Those are like the three other biggest leagues.
France is a farm league. Portugal's a farm league. Yeah. Yeah,
I respect Portugal more. Yeah, man. It's interesting to see. Newcastle, I think we should talk about them. I mean, they're right there. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously, they just got bought by Saudi Arabians. They got a lot of money now. They spent a lot of money now. They just got Anthony Gordon from Everton too. I found that kind of funny. Got They got some guys now, dude. I mean, they've only conceded before this weekend against Liverpool 13 goals all season over like 21 matches. They were like the best defensive team in the league by 10 goals, I'm pretty sure. Liverpool are the only team to have beaten them in the league, and they've beaten them twice now. I mean, credit to them, man. I mean, obviously, that's going to come with a bit of scrutiny. I think well-deserved scrutiny over just how they've reached this point after being relegated a few years ago and being bottom of the league for so long. Just these kind of nation-state oil money owners coming in and just propping a club right back up top like this doesn't feel right. But just looking on the pitch, at least, I mean, they're a fun team to watch, man. I mean, Almiron's had a resurrection this year. St. Maximin's always been one of like the sweatiest players in the league. Cool to see him just be on a decent team, you know. And Bruno Guimaraes has been awesome. Joe Linton, Willock, they got a solid squad. I think Trippier is actually, based on the source that I'm using for these statistical ratings, is the best player. Has been the best player in the league this year.
What?
He's been putting consistent like 7s and 8s on match days this season. Like he's been putting in. Yeah, man, Spurs legend, free kick hero for the English national team. That Kieran Trippier, man. Brandon's right back on Ultimate Team. That Kieran Trippier.
I'm actually going to replace him with Diogo Dallo, but we won't talk about Ultimate Team. I want to know what Kieran Trippier's rating was against Liverpool, because I mean, I would argue that he was one of their worst.
Yeah, dude. I mean, let's see here. He had a 7.8. I don't know how, but I don't know how. I mean, I guess to be fair, maybe individually he didn't commit as many fuck ups, but I don't know, man. He definitely messed up on that first goal that we scored. That Trent ball to Darwin. He just got caught in no man's land between Robbo's run and Darwin's run. But yeah man, just
the wrong guy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they're a fun team, man. I mean, for them, if it weren't us fighting for a top 4 spot with them directly, I would root for them to get that spot just because I'd rather see them than Chelsea or. I guess come and think of it, we just mentioned 3 other
Chelsea.
Clubs. Obviously not. You're right. I don't even know why I brought them in. And Spurs. That's right. And Spurs. I'd rather see Newcastle. But yeah, man. I mean, I guess we can think about this now, or maybe touch on it later when we do top 4 predictions on who we think is going to get that final spot. Because I honestly think the top 3 is probably settled. But
we can do it now. Might as well. We're talking about it.
Yeah, man. Who do you guys think are going to get that position? Put our biases aside, as 2 of our clubs are involved in this race, but what do you guys realistically think? Realistically,
I putting my bias aside.
Here we go. Liverpool second. Here it comes.
I still genuinely do think Liverpool will take that 4th spot. I do, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're not in other competitions, and there's obviously, as we all know, a great chance of us not being in Champions League come March 15th. And I think that we can focus a lot of that energy on the league, and you know what I mean? We have the experience with doing this, and as long as we can honestly continue in the form that we've been in these last couple of weeks, I don't see why not. I mean, even our performance against Real Madrid today, you put that performance against the majority of teams in the Prem, we're winning. I don't care what you say. Real Madrid is world class. Their counterattack is world class. But if you put our performance against any other team in the Premier League, maybe apart from like Manchester City, I genuinely I see us getting top 4. I do. I don't think that Newcastle is. I don't think that they're capable. I mean, I know Viggy was shouting out Almiron, and he is one of their best goal scorers. But what has he done recently? I mean, in the first half of the season, Almiron was great, and he was the reason. He was one of the key reasons for their success. But they haven't had those goal scorers recently, and the thing that's been carrying them is that defense. But we all know that defense cannot be the sole way to win games in the Premier League. You know what I mean? I don't have much to say about Tottenham. I just don't think they're going to make top 4. That's all there is to it.
I will say, to lend credence to the point of Liverpool being in a good position to get top 4, there's a lot of guys who are hurt as well for us currently who could be impactful down the road. Luis Diaz, like, he's been out for 3-4 months, and he was arguably our best player from like when he joined the club until we got to the Champions League final last year. So his impact would be really nice and been sorely missed for a while. Konate not playing today, I think, was huge. He handled Vinicius pretty nicely in the Champions League final, all things considered, and not having him there and having a noticeable downgrade in Gomez out there for him definitely hurt us today to an extent. And Thiago, he's always in and out. I mean, that guy can't stay healthy, but whenever he plays, he's a little bit past his prime, of course, but I mean, I think he still puts in some of our best midfielder minutes that we cannot possibly have to offer at this point. The 2 games in hand will help. I mean, not like long term, but I mean, right now it looks that we were 7 points back and forth, but 2 games in hand on Spurs. Spurs, I'm a little worried about Spurs still. They could easily just figure things out. I think coming up here, they've been on a bit of a slide the last few months. Conte's obviously expressed some dissatisfaction with how things have gone, but I don't know, man. They still kind of scare me a little bit, more so than any other team on this list. I think I had to rank like the likelihood of fourth. I think we were like placing odds on it, like just the top 4 teams who have like odds to get 4th place. Probably, I'd maybe have Liverpool slightly as like the favorite, and then like right behind them, if not right on with them, Spurs, and then Newcastle, and then I think Brighton have to be like right there in that conversation for now. I mean, we got a solid roster. Their managers got the tactics for that squad. They're at 35 points too, but they also have 2 games in hand, just like Liverpool do. I don't know as much about Fulham, but personally, but yeah, I mean, I'm with Brandon today. If you ask me, I'd say Liverpool. Ask me again in a month. We'll see what I say then. But um, man, a lot of season left to go. It's going to be fun. This race will be probably the best. It's a very nice appetizer to the main course of the title race. I think this top 4 race because so many teams are still in the thick of things. So can't complain.
Yeah, gun to my head, I would probably take Liverpool too, just because I feel like they've done this like a couple times in the last like 3 or 4 years.
2 years
where
ago,
they just sneak into like the
yeah.
4 spot, and you don't know how the hell they got there, but they just do it. Some crazy Allison, like stoppage time goals, shit like that. Where I'm just slamming my head on the table, wondering how this could happen.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, I'd probably take odds on getting the 4th. I'd probably take Liverpool. And honestly, I would take Newcastle over Spurs. I just think,
Think so?
yeah,
I like
I
fair. That's fair.
I do think
You watch them more.
Brandon's right that Newcastle definitely can't score right now. But I do think their defense just gives you like a much more solid foundation. And like even if like you're getting like draw or you're getting a point like every other match, they're gonna have to start winning more matches. But I think kind of scoring comes and goes more than like having a good defense. And Spurs defense has been awful this year. I shouldn't say awful. They haven't consistently been able to like keep clean sheets. I think like
Oh,
they kept a clean sheet
it's
against West
terrible.
Ham. Yeah, they
Oh my, 35 goals conceded? That's crazy.
yeah.
I don't know it was that bad. They're like one of the worst defensive teams in the league, actually.
They've kept like 8 all season. They've just been like super inconsistent. And I'm not like super confident they can score either. If they can get the ball up to their front 3 consistently, like I mean, Son, Kane, Kulusevski, Charleston, like that's probably right now maybe probably the best like top 3 in the Premier League. But they can't get the ball up there. Their midfield is not created enough to consistently get the ball up there. And their fullback, their wingbacks have not been good yet. So they're gonna pretty much be relying on like the aging body of Perisic and like Emerson Royale to get the job done. I'm not expecting a lot of like the new like Pedro Porro signings because it takes a while to acclimate to the team.
Question for you, Greg. What's Betancourt up to? Is he hurt right now, or why didn't he
got
play
hurt.
in the Champions League?
Yeah, he got hurt.
Okay, because he was pretty good. I remember him being pretty good for them lately. Like he's been
good.
a decent player for them.
Højbjerg and Benchker are like they're good, solid players. Like they're good, like
Yeah.
all action midfielders. Like you probably pop box to box, but they're better defensively. They're not like super creative.
Yeah.
It's not to a point where like they're consistently like creating assists for the top 3.
That's fair.
So
Yeah.
or the front 3. Just say top 3.
His front 3 is so self-sustaining. They all create for each other. It seems like.
Yeah. They definitely have the talent to like finish 3rd, but they haven't shown it all year, so I don't think they will. So yeah, that's my prediction. Are we just assuming United's going to be 3rd? They're not going to fall out.
Not gonna fall out. I don't think.
You don't think so?
They got a 7-point cushion on fourth right now. I think.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that much. Okay.
I think their
Yeah,
chances of getting into second or first are higher than them falling out for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, they're only 3 points behind City. Same games played, 5 behind Arsenal.
Yeah.
They're right in it. So, I slept on that until like a week or two ago. How close they genuinely were in the race. Even after they beat City like a few weeks ago, I still thought, okay, there's still some distance, but they're right there in that. It's going to be title race is going to be interesting, man. Got 3 teams now.
It's honestly, it's very exciting to see that there's 3 teams because I feel like last season, at the beginning of last season, we were thinking Chelsea, United, City, and Liverpool were all going to be in a four-way race, and it just, of course, it ended up being City and us, which is boring. Like, it's boring. I like to see more teams in the title race, so it is somewhat exciting. It sucks that we're not a part of it, but it is still
It's
exciting.
boring if you're not in it. Yeah, it's boring if you're not in it. Like for us, it was still a blast. But I mean,
Yeah,
as a neutral, yeah. I mean, it'll be fun, man. It'll be fun. I mean, speaking of races, I think when it comes to excitement, we should definitely talk about the relegation race coming up here. West Ham, I kind of forgot about West Ham and all of this. They've been disgusting this year.
What happened?
I don't truly. I haven't watched enough West Ham to know what the fuck happened with that team this year. But I mean, is Moyes just washed, or what the fuck happened to them?
I mean, what they finished last year? Were they 6th?
Yeah, they were Europe. They almost
the last couple of years they've been pretty good.
They were Europa League semi-finalists last year. They almost went to the final. Yeah, they're a solid team. I mean, from what I'm looking at, their goal differential is pretty solid, and they haven't conceded that much at all. I mean, I think Liverpool and West Ham had the same amount of goals conceded, but you can't score. It looks like they only have 19 goals this season. You can't score, you're not going to win matches, obviously. So maybe it could be some bad luck involved.
Antonio not firing.
Has he even played for them much this year? I haven't heard his name at all.
Well, he played against Spurs at least. I don't know if he's been.
Okay, I guess none of us. To be fair, none of us have heard of West Ham much this year, just because of how relevant they've been. I mean, Danny Ings is their leading goal scorer. If that's anything for you guys, he has 6 goals this year. He's their leading goal scorer.
Danny Ings.
Yeah, man, we got a lot of Liverpool deep cuts here. Lallana and Ings.
Don't forget about Coutinho, man. Doing bits at Villa.
He's still at Villa.
That's true. Yeah.
He almost won us the league last season.
Won us the fucking league.
That's true. Oh my god, that would have been poetic.
Steven Gerrard's a terrorist, bro. Steven Gerrard's a terrorist for taking that man off. But yeah, man. I mean, it's a pretty interesting bottom 3 race. I mean, we got some prominent clubs in this conversation, starting with West Ham, Everton. Obviously, I mean, pretty beautiful to see them right back into this after last year. I was pretty disappointed as a Liverpool fan. I'm sure Brandon was too, that they ended up escaping relegation. I don't know, Brandon. Would you rather have Everton in the league or have them get relegated?
So the thing is, last season I didn't want them to get relegated. I was kind of in this mindset of, this is our crosstown rival. I mean, their stadium is less than 2 miles away from Anfield. And it was kind of like I want to continue on with that rivalry, and I feel like Everton, even just 2-3 years ago, was supposed to be considered a top club. I mean, they were a team that was supposed to be fighting for top 4 when they spent all that money. So to see them drop that far down into relegation zone and literally just nearly escape relegation last year, it was surprising, and I didn't want them to get relegated, but just watching how they play against certain clubs, the time wasting, just the cheap plays, the flopping, it was like they are desperate to the point where they'll do anything to get out of that. And I mean, I can't blame them. I don't understand what it's like to be in relegation zone. But I think just based off of all of that and seeing them play towards the end of last season, fuck them. Like, I don't care. They can get relegated, and it won't make me miss them at all.
Your pity is dried up. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Like, the fact that they're even here again is ridiculous. Personally, I don't think that they're going to get relegated because I think Sean Dyche is capable of bringing them out. We've seen. I mean, he got a result against Arsenal, and he
beat Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. That's huge. So I think he's capable of keeping them out of relegation zone. I don't really see them getting relegated anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is kind of talking about the other clubs involved in this race also. Leeds United, I mean, they fired Jesse Marsh. Other than that, I mean, I haven't tapped in much with what's going on there. I mean, they've just kind of been a club that's been in disarray for the last season and a half, too, kind of like Everton has.
Their Team America, Vig.
Yeah, dude, they got with Kenny now, too.
Kenny,
I forgot about that. Tyler
like
Aronson, of course, yeah.
Robinson,
Yeah, I mean,
too, right? They have way too many.
He's on Fulham. He's on Fulham, I think.
Fulham, yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if they're a club I could see surpassing Everton, but they're also not a club that's just like. I think I would put Bournemouth and Southampton in that level of. I think these clubs are surely going to get relegated. Like Southampton for sure. They're shambolic. I mean,
They
them
just beat
beating
Chelsea though, bad. Like, and they fired their manager.
The new manager like just bounced, dude.
That's
happens
true.
so often.
That's true. Yeah.
But I mean, I think that speaks more so to how bad Chelsea are. I mean, Southampton scored off of a free kick goal by the guy who probably scores half their goals nowadays just off of free kicks because that's how good Ward-Prowse is at free kicks. But for Chelsea not to score a single goal at home against the worst team in the league, I think that's more of an indictment on them than anything. I still think Southampton are toast. But Wolves, I think we got to shout them out as being in this list too. They've been so uninspiring, just so lackluster squad in general. A bunch of Portuguese guys. Nothing against Portuguese men, but
here we go.
I don't know, bro. They're just not they're not an inspiring team, man. I mean, they do have Lopetegui though. Lopetegui's a very good managerial hire. I mean, he's got a pedigree. He's got a legitimate pedigree. Managed Sevilla for so long. The Spanish team for a second there until he got canned, but
briefly.
Yeah, I think for a little bit, yeah. But I could see, just like with the Sean Dyche thing that Brandon was mentioning, I could see Lopetegui pulling Wolves out of that muck eventually come May. But yeah, man, I mean, this is an interesting race just because there's so many teams involved. I mean, it is still late February. There's a lot of time left for this to change, but it is interesting that some of these teams are teams you wouldn't expect to be in this zone. I mean, like historically speaking, not form-wise. Form-wise, we can all tell these teams stink, but West Ham, Everton to a lesser extent, Leeds kind of there to a lesser extent as well. They're not that good, but hey, guys, what do you think will be the three teams who get relegated if you had to make your early calls on this?
I am going to go with Southampton, Bournemouth,
Yeah,
and I'm going to throw Nottingham Forest in the mix for a late. Just they tank late.
Okay,
bold.
Like that.
I like it. Yeah.
I like that. What do you think, Griff?
Yeah, I would go Bournemouth. I think it's gonna be Bournemouth, Leeds, and Southampton. I just think Leeds has been teetering for a little bit. It's kind of probably time. Yeah, and honestly, I can see Wolves. I think Wolves will probably finish like 17th. I agree with I think the Sean Dyche signing was a really good signing for Everton. I think he's going to pull him out of there. Leicester, after like a horrible start, have kind of like put some things together. I mean, they smoked Tottenham like 2 weeks ago. And it seems like Nottingham have invested enough money where at least they'll be up for another year, though I think next year could be kind of tough for them. But yeah, I think West Ham barely escape. I think they have too much talent.
Yeah, they'll find a way, I think, but it's going to be close. I think, though. I don't think they're going to like easily get out of that scrap.
Yeah, but if you look at goal differential too, I mean, Bournemouth is like the worst in the league, so I think pretty safe bet to drop down. And yeah,
definitely skewed to an extent by 9-0 Liverpool over Bournemouth, but
right.
we'll give him that. That result made no sense, but I think I'm gonna stick with two of the three teams you guys picked, Bournemouth and Southampton. I think those teams are ripe for relegation. I mean, Bournemouth, who the fuck do they even have to pull them out of that? Southampton, we've talked a bit about them already. I think if we're gonna just kind of relate a bit to what we just discussed with Newcastle, their lack of scoring and how that might come back to bite them for a top 4 race, who the fuck is gonna score for Everton? Who do they have who's going to score goals for them? Seamus Coleman, did you see the goal he scored against Leeds this past weekend? He shot it from like the touchline, like as a cross, and Meslier, the goalkeeper, was off of his line, and it just went near post on him into the net. Like it wasn't even supposed to be a shot on target, I don't think. And it went in, and they won 1-0. Like, I'm just saying a result like that, it just screams flukish to me in terms of who's going to actually generate production for them offensively.
They got
You
DCL,
sell one
bro.
of
What do you mean?
When's the last time he played? You could probably look on GQ and find more recent DCL action than you've seen him on the pitch, man. That guy's a full-time supermodel, bro. I'm not going to debate with you on this. I will say though, they sold Anthony Gordon just now. Like, that's one of the. I mean, I think he's vastly overrated. He has the English tax next to him, where he's worth whatever lump sum he was when he went to Newcastle. But he still is, all things considered, one of your best offensive players, and you just sell him away. Who the fuck else do you have? I mean, Liverpool Everton match last week, they started a guy named Ellis Sims, who even the announcers on NBC Sports had never seen any action of his, have no idea who he is until that match started. And yeah, lo and behold, they scored 0 goals against us. I mean, they have 17 goals this season. I think them and Wolves are the most profligate teams in the league. They just don't score goals at all. I think that's going to come back to bite Everton in the ass. I trust Wolverhampton's structure a bit more. I think they got a little more individual. Actually, I won't say they have more individual talent, but I think as a team, I think they'll play a little more structured to where they can finish 17th, I'd say. Then you got West Ham finishing 6th, or Leeds finishing 16th. West Ham, I think, will get out to 15th. But maybe I'm just an Everton hater, guys. Maybe just pull me down from my soapbox about Everton, but I'm asleep on them, man. I don't care what Sean Dyche has to offer. Burnley is Burnley, man. That team had character. Everton doesn't have character, man. Burnley was a physical, tough squad.
This is a hit
With Sean
piece.
Dyche's help, it's a hit piece, bro. But Burnley survived relegation for 6 years, not just because of Sean Dyche, but because of the culture he instilled on that team and the players that they had. I don't think Everton have that hunger in them for Sean Dyche to just inspire that out of them to escape this time. And as a Liverpool fan and Everton hater, I think seeing them get relegated right before a new stadium is about to open up would be quite hilarious. So, there. What I got for you.
I love it.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Tapping out.
Did we? I think that's kind of everything we want to talk about. Did we all pick a title winner? And we talked about it. I don't know if like we want to.
I know you guys both chose Manchester City as your guys' favorite.
No,
I didn't exactly.
I said you did the favorite. I think I would pick Arsenal. I think it's their year. I think they got the magic right now.
I'm with you. I'm gonna go with Arsenal as well. I think that Manchester City are just, like I said before, I think that they're just, this isn't going to be their season for the Prem. I just think they don't care about the Prem anymore, truly, and I think that that's going to affect some of the later results.
Grigg, clean sweep.
It's can't go there, man. Have you guys seen Arsenal's April fixture list? They got some matches coming up in April.
Oh yeah, I mean they play us, don't they?
Playoffs at Anfield. They're going to play City again. They're going to play Chelsea. Chelsea aren't Chelsea anymore, but then they play Newcastle after that. That's 4 matches out of 5 that are going to be anything but cakewalks, I would say, through the span of that month. And 3 of them are away. They play Liverpool away, City away, Newcastle away. Only home game is against Chelsea. That's going to be a tough season-defining stretch right there for them if they want to win this league. They got to win at least 2 of those. Arguably take points from all of them if they really truly want to get to that point of winning the league. I haven't looked at Man City's fixture list. I think it's going to come down to those 2 teams at the very, very end. United will stick around for a bit, in my opinion. But looking at City's fixture list, Everton away, May 13th, could be interesting if Everton are still in the thick of the relegation hunt. It could be one of Goodison Park's last ever Premier League hosted games. That could be quite the spectacle for an upset, as we just talked about with City being ripe for the challenge against a shittier team. April 26th is going to be the day that decides the title, man. City Arsenal at the Etihad. April 26th. We're going to have to mark that on our calendars in terms of where we think this league is going to go. Obviously, there's a Manchester derby that still has to occur that could change things up, but I think it's going to come down to those 2 teams. And unfortunately, I think City will pull it off. Not by much, of course, but it'd be very cool to see Arsenal win. It's hard for me. I've talked to Brandon about this, about where I stand on who I'm rooting for in this, because obviously everybody hates City. But I think just from a standpoint of Arsenal fans and knowing how annoying they would be if they were to finally win the league, Griffin can obviously attest to that. that almost like restrains me to an extent of like wanting them to win it. It
That's a
hurts
nightmare.
more for Griffin.
It'd be a
It
nightmare.
hurts more for you than.
Yeah, that's fair. There's not exactly like Manchester City fans like aren't exactly like a real set of people. So
Fake.
No, they're NPCs, dude. Like if
Yeah.
E-Man ever listens to this, bro, I want him to know he's an NPC, bro.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Keep that in there. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go with City for now. But yeah, man, we got 3 whole months in this thing. It's gonna be fun. Now that football is done, now that NFL is done, mostly just for me at least, basketball and Premier League / just European soccer. It's a really exciting time. Like, spring is my favorite season for sports, arguably with March Madness coming up too. Just in general, just with what we got coming up here, with this having a very wide open Premier League, and just everything all else considered, it's going to be fun 3 months here. So
For sure. Yeah, we definitely have to do a March Madness pod. That'd be a lot of fun. Get our brackets up.
what are we going to talk about? None of us watch college basketball.
That's
We can talk about how bad the
God, the
Gophers are, man.
horrible. Oh my God. Have they won a conference game?
We won like 1, I think. Our buddy Dave, he goes. He has season tickets. He's been going to these games, man. I pray for
That's
that guy.
awful.
Pray for Dave. Prayers to you, David.
This is
Prayers
the worst
to
year
you.
they've ever had.
In recent history, it has to be.
Probably, Griff.
Ben
Tough.
Johnson.
Yeah, man. Year 0. It's his second year 0. When is his year 1? When is he gonna have a year 1?
He's like Wiggins. Like, he's just like a 7th year rookie, you know? 6, 7
He's like
years.
Irv. He's like Irv Smith, bro. He's like, just wait another year. He's gonna step it up. I think we did the March Madness pod, dude. We could rank like mascots or some dumb shit like that. Like make like a very just like child friendly episode where we just rank mascots and don't just talk about sports for an hour. But
We'll see.
hey, man, you got the Buffalo hat, bro. Lead the way, bro.
Okay. All right. Well, I think on that note, it's a good place to stop. Brand, next time you're on, we'll have to talk more Ultimate Team. Maybe you can show your Prem squad.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I'm yeah.
Looking
for
forward to
sure.
that one. I know the viewers are too.
He knows he's about to get clapped on Div Rivals if he plays tonight, bro. He's aware.
But no, it's been fun. It'll definitely be really interesting to see how everything shakes out. Hopefully the title race is close, and I think we'll definitely have another Champions League kind of recap. Maybe everyone once it hits the final 4. But yeah, we'll see how things turn out.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to have one March 15th that night, I'd be down to talk about the 4-0 Liverpool result at the Bernabeu. Definitely looking forward to that. So,
Sure.
You know,
For sure. Emergency pod.
Emergency pod, dude. We're going on Twitter Spaces. Yo, we got a Twitter account now, so I mean, we got to shout out for a little bit. Yeah, us three. Yep.
We'll post it.
Yeah, man. I mean, we got to host the Twitter Spaces after that. It'll be a movie, and then it'll activate his Twitter again after 6 years, and nothing.
All right, guys.
Man, it's been a pleasure, though. Thanks for having. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Grigg and Rick show.